Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Yeah, I'm trying to be sensitive to those of you that do not like me driving in the truck while making a video. I understand there's the rumble and the noise, and actually now it's a little worse because the truck capper thing on the bumpy road, it's gonna jiggle a little bit, make some noise, so I'm gonna try to hold back a little bit on those driving videos because I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, thank you for all the many suggestions for the truck cap video that I did yesterday. I've been reading through them and making mental notes. Very good stuff. A lot of you suggesting things to put in it that I just haven't put in it yet. Partly because, and I neglected to mention this in the video, one of the deals with getting this, the guy told me he had keys, and so he pulled the keys out that he got when he bought the thing, and the keys didn't, they were the wrong keys. So there's technically no keys for the locks, but I contacted the manufacturer the very next morning when I bought it, and there's a little code. I figured there was a little code, and they're sending me new keys. I should get them probably tomorrow or the next day. So I'm holding back on putting much stuff in it. The locks on this thing is pretty secure. I mean, it's more than just popping it with a screwdriver. I mean, any lock can be picked, but I don't want to put too much in it until I know I can at least lock it. But thank you for that, and any suggestions are helpful because like I said, it's a project, and not just for our family, because bugging out really isn't what we live at our bug out location. So if it was a bug out, it's a temporary thing, tornadoes coming or something like that. Mostly this is an emergency response vehicle for our community, a way that we can move stuff around. And there's another guy that has a truck it's not this exact type, but he's got a camper shell on it, and that he's decking it out in the same way. So we'll have a couple of them at least. Anyway, so today, this isn't doom and gloom, it's just stuff in the news. This morning I talked about the illegal immigration. I don't know, I think it was YouTube, because the numbers were like, like no one watched that video this morning, it looked like, according to the numbers. It was the lowest watched video that I've had in a while. So I think that was YouTube. This illegal immigration thing, I still believe it's one of the greatest threats that we face right here, right now, in this moment. And saying that this morning, since then, there's been more come out in the news. There's been a couple more videos of hundreds and hundreds of people coming across the border yesterday and today. And it's not just from south of the border countries, okay? In fact, one of the videos, the guy said he estimated in just one batch that it was 800 African males. It came out in the news today that yesterday was the highest number on record of recorded people crossing the border. These are illegals crossing the border, they're undocumented immigrants. 12,000 yesterday that was documented. 12,000 in one day that was documented. If it is just 12,000, if that happened every day for a month, that's 360,000 people, folks. That's an insane amount, and that's just the southern border, and that's just the ones that we catch and document. So if there was 12,000 yesterday that were documented at the southern border, how many people came into this country illegally yesterday? 20,000, 30,000 in one day? Who knows? This is a huge deal. Another thing that doesn't get talked about much with it is because there's so much coming across of these and processing them that the Border Patrol is unable to actually do anything else. I mean, all they're doing is processing these, asylum seekers and undocumented, people coming across the border. They're not really able any longer to do things like, drugs and people trafficking and gun trafficking and things like that. And I've seen reports, and I've actually heard directly from people that live along the border or close to the border, And they say that pretty much the cartels control our border now. In fact, there was another video this morning, I don't know if you saw it, and it was these cartels, they have their own, like, their SWAT team or their special forces kind of people, and they're decked out. I mean, they are decked out. They look like some kind of futuristic, assault team. They know, like and you got to assume, you can't just say, well, they probably don't have the skills. Some of these guys are former military of around the world, and they have the money to be trained by former special operations type folks, maybe not always American, but from other countries. So the cartels, from what I hear, is they're pretty much controlling our border. So there's a whole lot going on with this illegal immigration problem. It's not just that there's a lot coming into the country. There's a whole lot of other things coming into the country because they're not able to stop it any longer, or at least to restrain it in some way. Another thing that's being talked about a lot today, both the Secretary of Defense, Austin, and Joe Biden himself said today that if we do not, we as a country, and then directing this conversation to Congress, if Congress in the United States does not continue to fund Ukraine in its fight against Russia, then the only other resort is to put U.S. troops on the ground, that we will be fighting Russia. That's kind of a blackmail thing, right? You either pass this funding or we're going to have to send U.S. troops. If that happens, and this has been talked about extensively since Russia invaded Ukraine, the possibility of United States troops under the banner of NATO getting involved over there. I would almost guarantee you that we would have to have a draft. There is no way. When you look at the amount of troops that since the beginning, and I don't have the exact numbers, but it doesn't take long in following the news to figure out it's hundreds of thousands that have gone through on the Ukrainian side and on the Russian side. I mean, Putin just ordered to expand the military another 170,000 troops there in Russia just this last week. We don't have that many troops. We certainly don't have that many ground fighting troops. Our numbers, you all know this, our numbers are way down. Recruitment's way down. And then here's the other thing, that if this were to happen, and it's not saying that the United States military is not capable, or that Russia is way more capable, but the Russian army has almost 2 years of experience. It's a year plus experience in fighting war, in fighting that style of ground war, where virtually no U.S. soldier has experience in that type of ground war. And the vast majority of our frontline fighting troops have almost no experience. It's been long enough since Iraq and Afghanistan that most of the guys that fought there, they're out, and the few that are still in, they're senior NCOs and stuff. So those privates and corporals and that are going to be on and even low-ranking sergeants that's going to be out there actually doing the fighting for the most part have no war experience. So we'd be going up against battle-hardened troops. It would not be a good thing, and I assure you that a draft would just almost have to happen. And on the surface, it looks like that Biden and the administration is trying to blackmail, in a sense, hey, if you don't pass this funding, Biden says this funding, that Congress has to pass funding before they leave for their holiday Christmas break. I don't know when that is, but it's soon. I'd say in the next week or two. And so there's this push to hurry up and pass some additional funding for Ukraine. But also, is this potentially the beginning of a narrative which it's not the beginning, it's just a more vocal part of the narrative to soften the blow for U.S. troops being involved in Europe? Because I've been thinking about it. I look at it this way. If NATO and the Biden administration and all of their ilk, if they are truly serious about Ukraine absolutely must win this war against Russia, it's at a point that there's only a few possible ways that that could happen. Nuclear, and that's not a guarantee certainly, because then Russia would retaliate. More direct attacks into Russia, that's not a guarantee. And then the other would be troops. Ukraine's running out of troops. We can only throw so much money at that money pit there, to the point that they have to have troops. It doesn't matter how much money at a certain point. They have to have boots on the ground, and they're running out of that. That's the problem. I've talked about this recently. Most of you know this. They're putting old men and women on the front lines because they're running out of people to fight. And if the government and NATO and the West and all of them are really serious that absolutely Ukraine has to win this war, then I think probably the only way that that's ever going to happen is putting boots on the ground, Western boots on the ground, NATO, which is another word for the United States. There's been a lot of distractions, and I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about it. You don't see as many of those gold and blue flags flying everywhere. Not that I've ever seen any around here, but you don't see as much. So there's a lot of other things. Winter is setting in over there, and when the ground completely freezes, I don't know when that will be, but when the ground completely freezes, it's going to potentially escalate things even more, because that's where Russia shines. If the ground completely freezes, the tanks and all that kind of stuff can move about a lot better, and we could see a more intense war coming this winter. So I'm just warning you. United States troops getting involved, it's gonna escalate things a lot. With Russia, you've got BRICS, trying to knock the dollar off the top totem pole. There's a lot going on there, and then of course the possibility of a draft. And there's so many things that could happen because of that. Here back home, economically, supply chains, protests, riots, civil unrest, all that kind of stuff. So it's, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's always been likely. But now they're talking about it out in the open. Okay. Prepper channels, including myself, have talked about this since it started over there. But now the White House, the administration, is openly talking about that we'd have to send American troops over there. And so it's something I think to kind of sit back and ponder and realize that I think that in itself is an escalation. I'm not trying to sensationalize things, but I do think that right there tells us that it's getting there, right? Their idea of throwing a bunch of money at Ukraine and letting Ukraine do this isn't working out so well for them. I mean, they've had Abrams tanks for a while, and I'm not hearing of any great victories because we sent them a few Abrams tanks. And from what I understand, they'll be using F-16s soon, and I doubt that that's going to change things either. Like I said, I think it's going to get to the point that if they're very serious, they're either going to walk away from Ukraine and just say, well, make up some kind of crazy story, excuse, or try to divert people's attention and let Ukraine lose. But if they are serious that Ukraine has to win, I don't really see any other way of Ukraine pulling out a victory at this point without troops. They need people. And so be wary of that. Now, of course, we've got a bunch of people coming across the border. And in fact, who was it the other day? It was some politician. I don't remember who it was. But some politician was saying and encouraging that allow these these illegals coming across to join the military and give them citizenship, that's been done in the past. But my problem is that from everything that I'm reading, a lot of these coming across the border, they're not coming here to assimilate and become Americans. Like, they don't have an interest in that. And so if that's the case, do we really want that kind of people in the military? People that aren't truly loyal and patriotic. I mean, that's what the left and the globalists want, but it's not what you and I would want, I wouldn't think. But that's part of the discussion also, is, well, we need troops. Ukraine needs troops. We've got 12,000 people a day crossing the border that we know of. Let's just train them and ship them over there, right? Maybe that'll be the plan. Either way, the illegal thing it's bad, folks. And I know it's one of those things you're saying, what are we supposed to do? We can't fix this. No, you can't. You can't fix it. You can just get ready for it. And I don't even have all the answers of what to get ready for. We're eventually going to start seeing more social unrest. We're going to start seeing more and more increase in crimes. You're going to start seeing more people, leave these cities. It's going to get to that point that you just can't be in them. I know that there's so many of you that's going to argue that it's okay and that you like it and you don't have any other choice. I'm afraid that we're not that far away to the point that most cities are just not going to be livable, at least parts of those cities, and it's eventually going to spread to most cities. It's already getting that way. There's the list of cities that you could probably name off that just are just getting to be too dangerous to live in without problems is too much. I don't want to. I don't know. I don't know about you. I'm not going to talk about it too much more, because it's you can only get so far with people, and so you either know and you're doing something, or you don't. But it's a problem, and it's a huge problem. I mean, think about it, folks. If they're admitting to 12,000, then what's the real number? And that's in one day. One day. If they're admitting to 12,000 in one day, what's the real number? We know it's going to be more. Get ready, folks. Don't think we have a lot of time left before things start getting just unbearable, that they're very obvious. It's hard to deny the severity of the times that we live in. So get yourself and your houses in order. Prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.